In this session we're going to have a look at the inspector window up here in the toolbar within DocHaven. Now the inspector window gives us more information about the particular project and shows us the information, the extra data to do with the project. Often they call that the metadata that appears on the server, as well as some extra information about the files that are on your local hard drive. Now the way that you bring the inspector window up is either by clicking on the inspector window button here in the toolbar, or under the file menu you can choose the inspector from the file menu. Okay, now if I click on the inspector window now, it appears. Now it does slow the system down because it has to look up a lot of the information from the server. Certainly the first time it does take a while. Also, if it appears grayed out, you may actually need to click on the particular project again, and again it'll take a little while, but then it should automatically appear with the correct data from the server. So I'll just wait for a sec for that to appear. If it doesn't appear for whatever reason, then you can always click on another project or another file within DocHaven, come back, and there we go. We now have all of the information to do with that project. Okay, now what information does it hold? First of all, it gives you the name of the project, which you can change here. Any of the items within the inspector you can change. If you choose cancel, it will lose all of those changes. If you click on update, it will keep the changes that you make in the inspector. Now we know that we can right click on a project and change the name in there, or alternatively we can change the project name here. Here's the owner, the person who is the main person who looks after that project. They're the only ones who can change most of this data. You also have the option to choose what groups have access to that project. So the owner remains the same, but the group can potentially take that project out. Web content is if the contents of this project, whenever it's put away as well as going away to its normal location determined by the owner, can potentially be sent in an unencrypted form, typically if it's files to be downloaded by FTP, to a separate site if needed. You can change the password here, which doesn't change the content of the actual files themselves. All it is that if you go to take out or copy out a project, it'll ask for that password before it'll let you bring it out to your computer. Notify owner tells you if this particular project notifies the owner when anyone, including themselves, takes out or accesses or puts away the particular project. So you can keep tabs typically on template documents to see how much they're being used, that sort of thing. Template documents, as we've seen before, show up when you create a new project in the templates list. Short-term documents for where you have a document like a fax header, something that or a memo that you don't intend to keep long-term, and if you're running out of space you can remove all the short-term documents. Hidden project means that it won't show up under normal lists and things, this particular project. Now I'll turn all of those back off. Down here is some data on the server. It's not the latest information on the server here, but at least of the project we've taken out, but how it appeared on the server. So we can see who created this particular project. It might not necessarily be the owner. What date they created it, when it has last been modified. That is, when was the last time that this project was put back onto the server. Who was the last person to take it out, which is useful if you're trying to find a lost project. What particular date and time did they take it out. And down the bottom here you can see what particular workstation it was they took it out on. So if you knew which particular person it was who took it out and when they took it out, you can see the physical workstation. Maybe it's their laptop, it could be their desktop computer, it could be a home computer. So you can see the MAC address, which is the Ethernet address, as well as the TCP/IP address of where they took that project out. And you can see how many versions we have on the server. So there are 3 versions on the server. The one out on the computer will in a sense be version 4 whenever that gets put away. Down the bottom here we have the option of whether the project is in or not. Now when you're looking at this inspector, by definition you've got the project out, so it'll almost always be unchecked. We have notes. You can type in whatever text that you want into notes. It's entirely up to you. We have the status of the project, a number of different things to do the project management side of the project. So all of these items down below are grayed until we actually start the project. You can see that when we go to 0%, all of these are grayed, but as soon as we go up to 100% or something between 1 and 99% completion, we now have the option to change these items. We can change the priority, we can change the review status of this project, put in information for milestones, expenses, resources, all sorts of things there we can say about the project itself. We can specify dates and times that this project was expected to be started on, and the budget we expected to end it on, and then we have the actual time that it started and actual time that it ended. And that information, as it is changed, shows up in graphical format down below here. Costs are useful if you want to just have a very simple billing system for this project that you want to send to people. It's not designed as a replacement for an accounting system, but if you did want to add some particular work that you do for somebody related to this particular project, then there you go. We can now preview, we can edit, we can change a number of billing items on this project. So we can so that may be useful for you as well. The contents shows us information about the project as it appears on the server. Again, it's not to do with the project as it's taken out. You may have added and changed and deleted files. This is as it appears on the server. In uncompressed form, it's 2.8 megabytes. In compressed form, you can see we've reduced it by around a third, so it's down to less than 1 megabyte on the server. You can see all the different names of the files and folders that are in there, sorted alphabetically. We can see the different types of documents that are in there. In this case, it's just got Excel spreadsheets. We can see what extensions may be on files in there. We can see when we sent it up whether it had alias files in there, whether it had invisible files, Macintosh Classic resource forks, or if any of the files were locked. Now, some of this information, the aliases will be resolved. The locked files will be unlocked when they come out. Most invisible files will be made visible, but it tells you what it was like when it went up last, and whether the project is on the server in the cloud in a compressed format. Now, the items that do relate to the files on this computer are here in the Finder. So when we click on a particular file here, this relates to the actual file that is sitting on your computer here now. So we can see the file name, what kind it is, its date and modified, all sorts of different attributes, icon attributes. If you want to slow things down even further, you can choose the size option. It'll tell you the size of that project. Now, the reason it'll slow you down is if you do click on a folder, it will actually count up the size of all the files and folders, however many deep that particular folder is that you've got highlighted. In this case, we don't have too many files. If you did have hundreds or thousands of files and folders within a particular project, then that could take some time for it to calculate it. But if you quickly want to work it out, you can do that. Keywords relates to the project itself on the server, so you can say what particular project this is, whether it's for work purposes or for personal purposes or both, and get access to that later. Okay, down in the history we can see a list of the notifications or other items that we get about this project. If I click on refresh, you'll see there's no notifications for this project, but you can see all the different things that we've done with it, when we've taken it out, when we've changed, when we've launched items on there, so you can get an idea as to sort of how this project has been used over time. All of the information in the lists, if you highlight them all, you can copy and paste them into an Excel spreadsheet or something like that if you wanted to. Now in this case I don't need to change anything. I'm actually going to go cancel to close down the inspector window and not save any of those changes. Okay, so that's the inspector within DocHaven.